Hi, I'm Jackie Lester. Welcome back or welcome to my channel. Today I am talking all about food myths, myths we have about eating healthy, eating fresh, and I feel like it's fair for me to talk about all these because I believed every single one of them. 2 years ago, I had to completely change everything I ate. And to be honest, I was absolutely terrified because I didn't think I could do it. Mainly because I believed the 3 things that I'm going to talk about in this video. But what was happening was I was having these horrible migraines, and honestly I'd always struggled with headaches, struggled with other related issues, and I realized that it was the food I was eating. I had gotten tested for gluten, soy, dairy, all of the common allergies, and basically what we figured out was that I'm allergic to preservatives. And I'm allergic to things like food dye, fake sugars, basically anything that when you read it on a label you can't tell what it's saying. Now there are a few exceptions to that, and I'm learning what those are. But going from being able to go through any drive-through and get whatever I wanted to suddenly having to eat everything fresh from home just opened a whole lot of can of worms that I was not prepared for. But I've learned so much over 2 years. And to be honest, I want to go back. I love the food that I'm eating now. I love cooking. I love sharing recipes with everyone. And I feel so much better that I would honestly recommend this. It's not a diet, but I would honestly recommend this lifestyle to anyone. Myth number 1, it's more expensive. I don't know where I got this idea. My best thought is that it came from the fact that sometimes I would go to the store, I'd buy all this fresh food, I'd be so excited about it, and then I'd get home and I'd cook a couple of those things, and then I'd lose interest, and then I'd end up wasting, which sounds horrible, but to be honest, I did that. I did that a lot. There'd be a recipe I found on Pinterest, something that sounded like, oh, I'm gonna love that, and then I'd get busy at work, or I wouldn't have planned ahead and I wouldn't have checked my schedule, didn't realize I was eating out with people, and suddenly I've wasted food. And so in my mind, it was too much of a risk to buy fresh food all the time if I wasn't even going to cook it, if I wasn't going to plan well. But in reality, buying fresh food is a huge budget saver. If you think about how many times you eat out and how much a meal costs, and then break that meal down by each of the ingredients, it's insane. If you were to buy chicken at the store and divide it by how many chicken sandwiches you could have at your favorite chicken sandwich institution, usually a meal like that, you have the chicken, you have the fries, if you're getting a drink, that can be almost $10. But if you buy the chicken yourself, buy some potatoes, cut them up, throw them on the stove, that is going to save you so much money. Not only that, but you're going to feel better. There's nothing wrong with getting your favorite chicken sandwich, and in fact we have a fryer at home, so I'm not just fully putting things on the stove or baking things. Sometimes we fry things too, but at the end of the day, because the ingredients are fresh and because they're things that I know I'm not allergic to, it works out way better. If you don't believe me, take this little challenge and pick your favorite meal off of your favorite local drive-thru and take all the ingredients in that meal and figure out how much they would cost at your local grocery store. And if you were to spend $10 at your favorite drive-thru or $10 at the grocery store, figure out how many meals you could eat. The second myth is too much time. I'll agree that eating healthy does take time, but most of it's on the front end. A huge roadblock for me was just learning new recipes, learning the best times to go shopping, when the sales are, learning different kitchen skills that, when you're learning at the beginning, it does take a lot of time because you mess up. Or you don't know what you're doing. And so that's a huge factor. But I think the other part of time is just choosing to put it first. And that's really hard. It is hard to have the discipline to say, I want to eat healthy, I want to make this lifestyle change, but I have these other priorities. And so if you can dedicate one night a week, 1 hour, one night a week, to prepping your food, to making it easier to cook, to thinking through your week, thinking about what meals are you going to for sure eat out, what margin do you have in your budget. Taking the time to plan for your meals is going to make a huge difference for the rest of your week. Cooking healthy food actually doesn't take very long. The part that takes long is planning. I can make flour tortillas from scratch, from start to finish, in the amount of time it takes to go through a drive-thru. The actual cooking part is not the problem. The problem is dedicating the time figuring out what you want to eat, what will best fuel your body, and what days you have available for cooking and preparing those things. And that is not to minimize how busy you are, not to minimize your job, your family, these commitments, these priorities you have. Everyone has those things, and what it really takes is just choosing to set aside a little bit of time and being able to say no to something, to say yes to a better thing. One of the best ways to learn how to save time is to tune in to channels like mine, where you can learn how to cook new recipes, where you can learn time management skills, planning skills, and make that part of your self-care time. Make that part of the time that you invest back into being a healthier you is learning, taking some classes, being part of a community that will encourage you to make the choices that you want to make. The third myth, and maybe the hardest for me to get over, was that food just wasn't going to taste as good. I grieved over the fact that I would never have another Cheeto. Like, I was so disappointed at some of my favorite foods that I was going to miss. And so after grieving and being disappointed, my husband and I decided to make a list. Like, what are the things that I need to learn how to make? What are the things that I'm going to crave and that I need to learn how to make on my own? And so the first one of those was flour tortillas. So I spent all 2020 learning how to make flour tortillas. And like I said at the beginning, I'm never going back. Like, I love my flour tortillas more than any restaurant or than any grocery store, and I'm really thankful that I discovered that recipe, and I actually have a video of how to make them, so you can go back and check that out. Cinnamon rolls, donuts, clearly I love bread. There are a lot of bread things on the list, but I learned how to make them all, and it was so much fun to just experiment and just to practice different cooking skills that I never would have practiced before. And if I'm being honest, everything I make now tastes way better than what I was eating before. There's actually different chemicals that are used in preservatives and different things to keep our food on the shelves that actually takes away from the original flavors. Now that I've stepped away from some of those preservatives and food dyes for 2 years, my palate has completely changed. Like, I'm not satisfied anymore with fake cheese and fake sweets and fake things. Like, I crave real, natural things. And so I think your body adjusts over time and realizes what's good for it and what actually energizes it, and starts to crave those things. So if you're just starting out and you're a little nervous about if you'll ever find the foods you love, make a wish list, make a top 10. You need to figure out how to make these from scratch and start looking at recipes. And then also, if you're like, will I ever love tofu, or will I ever love these things? Like, start experimenting. Experiment with different seasonings, experiment with different sauces. There are a lot of options out there. And this is one of my favorite tricks. I find that it's way easier for me to find safe salad dressings than it is to find marinades. And so I marinate my chicken in salad dressing. Over time, you'll learn how to shop like a pro. You'll learn your favorite recipes. You'll learn how to do this all quickly. But at the beginning, it's really hard, and you need encouragement and you need resources. There's a cost in the front end of figuring out your budget, figuring out what it looks like to plan for your week, how to learn new cooking skills. But those investments eventually have an incredible return. I think it is totally worth pushing through those myths and figuring out what's true about eating fresh, and doing that on your own. I would love to hear about your journey, and I would love to help you with any resources I can. So tune back in for recipes, potential shopping lists, different things that I do to plan and prep for my week, and I would love to serve you in any way that I can.